I start my day like a lot of wine lovers start their day, with a cup of coffee. And I am going to have wine later today. But when is too much too much? We're going to talk about it in this video. I almost got you there, didn't I? Hello. Welcome back to Exotic Wine Travel, the show that helps you drink adventurously so you can expand your palate and expand your mind. I am your host, Matthew Horkey. So I don't drink wine at 7:30 in the morning. However, I must admit, when I've been on certain press trips before, different regions, different tastings, or sometimes when our samples get backed up too much, I have to deadlines for articles, I do have to taste early in the morning, sometimes 8, 9 a.m., but you definitely spit. So yes, I actually love wine, but does that make me an alcoholic? I'm going to self-reflect and take a deeper look into the issue. I love to taste as many wines as possible. I love to drink it every day. But that doesn't mean I get out of control. And let me explain a little bit. I actually wish that wine was lower in alcohol, like really, really low, because I don't actually like to get drunk or tipsy. I don't like that buzz feeling. But you know what? The thing that interests me so much in wine are the aromas, the flavors, the complexity, links to history, geography, especially climate, location, producer stories. That's what really gets me interested in wine. Oh, food pairing as well. So if you follow work, you might think that we're just tipsy the entire time, but that's not the case. I'm going to break that down a little bit. But first, before all of that, let me tell you a little bit about my story growing up. So I grew up in a wholesome farming family in Michigan in the United States. And I have to tell you, alcohol played zero part in my life when I was growing up. My father maybe drank beer once every 6 months, maybe once every year if we were at a wedding. My mother never drank anything at home, once a month or something. I think she would go out with friends. Really, wine had nothing to do with my childhood. When I was about 15, 16 years old, I started experimenting with beer, to be cool when you're in school. And I remember throwing a huge party in my house, and it got out of control. I am from a tiny town, 2,000 people. It seemed like everybody in my town, the surrounding towns were there. People were out in the yard drinking, and I remember my dad walking outside and looking at one of my friends and telling my friend, "Son, I think it's time to go home." And the next thing I knew, there was dozens of cars zooming out of the driveway going home. And when I went back into the house, I remember I threw up in front of my dad, and I was just so embarrassed that I didn't touch alcohol from the time I was 16 years old until the time I was 21 when I was legally able to drink in the U.S. That all changed when the wine bug bit me, because once the wine bug bites you, it holds on hard. Once I started tasting wine, I wanted to taste and experience as many wines as possible. And I have to admit, when I started Exotic Wine Travel and got into the industry, I definitely overdid it a few nights. Definitely because there's always amazing food, always basically free. You're getting poured free wine all the time. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So I would just suck it down, but that started to catch up with me. After a few years in the industry, I started to realize, wow, there might be people that have problems with alcohol, especially the fact that we're in a profession where you're around it all the time. But I'm not pointing fingers in this video. It's not all about everybody else. This is all about me. Alcoholism isn't really talked about in the wine industry that much, just because wine's always around all the time. When you're going to events, tastings, when you're having dinner, everybody sips a little bit. They're having a good time. But there are definitely some risks involved. You're always around it. Writers and producers because you're making it. Writers and other people in media because you're always getting sent wine samples to review. So you have tons of free wine there. It can get out of control pretty quickly. But I'm going to take a look on alcohol.org about what the definition of alcoholism is. And when I did that, some of the things, made me think a little bit. And before we get started, I want to give a huge disclaimer. This is not my profession. I am not licensed to give any kind of advice, any kind of diagnosis. So if you think you need help, let's go out and seek professional help. So under the definition, they say that you can be diagnosed or you can be considered an alcoholic if you meet some of these criteria. Let's take a look at the first one. You're at risk for men if you have no more than 4 drinks on a given day and no more than 14 per week. This one is a little bit tricky. 14 drinks a week. If you have more than that, you're considered at risk. Now, I have to be honest. I like to have 1 to 2 glasses for lunch, 1 to 2 glasses with my dinner as well. So if you add all that up, let's just even say it's just 1 glass. That's 2 glasses a day, 14 glasses a week. You're already over your allotment. So I think the only saving grace here is that, you know, when people pour wine, especially finer wines, you're not pouring a humongous pour. It's usually a smaller pour, and it goes well with food. And food absorbs the alcohol, so you really don't feel it much. On a lighthearted note, I love what the Italians say. If you're drunk, you didn't drink too much, you just didn't eat enough. One of the criteria is giving up previously enjoyed social, occupational, or recreational activities because of alcohol use. This one also could be a little alarming. For me to live this lifestyle, to do this, to be in this industry, I left my job, my friends and family. I cut all my social ties, all my old hobbies to do this, travel around the world, explore wine regions, write about them, produce videos about them. So this is kind of a gray area for me. I mean, I write, produce videos, social media posts about wine. That's my entire life. That's everything. And since we're kind of a startup, this takes up almost all of my time. Being unable to cut down alcohol use despite the desire to do so. So, this is where I think I'm okay. You know, last year, because I was putting on a ton of weight from not exercising, from eating a lot, from being in the wine industry, I went on a hardcore intermittent fasting diet routine, and I also didn't drink wine for a whole month. And I had no withdrawal symptoms. Actually, was pretty easy. I enjoyed myself. It was fantastic. Of course, I missed tasting wine, being around wine people, but everything went pretty smooth. So that's a good sign. Another criteria is spending a lot of time obtaining, using, and recovering from the effects of alcohol. This one's also a little alarming, especially about the time procuring or finding alcohol. And let me explain. Since I'm producing content all the time, I constantly need new wines to taste. I need to find new stories. So a good portion of my day is dealing with producers, wineries, brands that are sending me requests to send wine to me actually trying to find and locate wines I want to write about or I want to produce video about, trying to email them, dealing with tracking numbers since we are always moving and always traveling. You know, when producers send us wine, sometimes I have to reroute packages or I have to think ahead to where I'm going to be and send the wine there ahead of time. That can be pretty stressful. That takes up a good portion of my time. I definitely think I have a fantastic handle on alcohol, but if you look at some of this criteria, some areas might be a little bit alarming. So alcoholism is a serious issue, and I definitely am thankful to take the time to produce this video and take a look at this. You know, we were having a discussion with a bunch of people once, and Shireen said something pretty profound. She said, I don't think it's what you drink and how often you drink, it's why you drink. And to me, like I said, the alcohol is not important to me. Wine to me is the most interesting, fascinating beverage in the world. Because it's not a commodity. It's different every single year. There's so much work, sweat, tears, sacrifice that go into a glass of wine. There's so many complex flavors. There's so much going on in terms of history, culture, grape varieties, geography, climate. It's just really a fascinating thing. And I think that's what keeps the intellectually curious and wine geeks like me so into this stuff, because you can never learn everything about wine. So I hope this inspires you to take a look at your life, your friends and family life. I hope that you drink responsibly, but you still find the time to enjoy this beverage, which I think is the most wonderful drink in the world. Cheers. I'll see you at the next episode.
Hello, thanks for watching.
Hey, you made it to the end. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell so you know when new videos are out. If you like content like this, check out our Patreon page where you get some behind the scenes exclusive content. Thanks for watching. Cheers.
Cheers.